In a world where light coexists with shadows, life is a study of opposites. Great pain is the shadow of great happiness, and despair walks hand in hand with hope. You may choose to be blind to the life unfolding all around you, or you may choose to see. Either way, life will find a way to show you. When it does, will you be prepared? Will you keep a level head and a warm heart? Will your light brighten the darkness that creeps in? The choice is yours to make, says John Siddique, a spiritual teacher, poet, and author. So, John, today we are going to talk about coping mechanisms, okay? Coping mechanisms for people who don't seem to be in a mess. At least they don't seem to be nervous wrecks, not on the outside. But there was a silent desperation inside. And we are going to talk about those people who are dealing with stress in their everyday life, trying to deal with it and failing. What can they do?
The thing is with stress and problems like we're talking about is that we see it in isolation. So in order to actually talk about it with any seriousness, we actually have to look what the causes of those stresses are, you see. And it's much simpler than we think, but it's not the kind of thing that people are willing to think about most of the time. See, because we almost have to take complete personal responsibility for our lives. That doesn't mean, when we say responsibility, it doesn't mean that things are our fault, but we have to actually learn about what our lives are. We actually believe, I think, that life is automatic and it should just go our way, and we're playing a game of chance, you see. Whereas actually you need to learn about how life really works so that you can look after yourself, for example, you know. So if you just live on a diet of chicken, for example, and kind of fried foods, and you wonder why you're getting fat or something, you know, but you're unwilling to change your diet, well, you can obviously see what's going on. And with stress, anxiety, and the kind of stuff that we're talking about, things that lead towards suicide and things like that, there are really clear things in operation in people's lives, but we have to bring awareness to them to understand that that they're there.
How do you bring about this awareness?
Well, you simply have to look. You have to ask very simple questions, for example, like, you know, who am I and what am I here for? Those two simple questions answer most of the things about our lives. How am I living? You know, we will ask it about kind of business. When a business isn't working, we'll ask a question, why does this business not work? But we don't look at our lives, even in a business-like way, and say, you know, how can I make the best of my life? What we do is we go along with what is automatically programmed into us at life. You know, when you and I met yesterday, we were talking about generational inheritance and the models of love, models of stress, models of hate, politics, financial values, work ethics, all sorts. Those things are modeled by our parents. Theirs were modeled by their grandparents. Theirs were modeled all the way back through time. And we don't think anything about it. And we think, why are we not happy? Why is my life not going the way I want it to? And because we've never even looked at what those component parts are, whether they're serving us or not. I call that material object consciousness, in that they're like objects in a room. So we might imagine that this chair is our finances, that this chair is our model of love, that something over there is how we've been taught to meet our needs. And instead of seeing those from a kind of inner place of awareness, we believe that if we move the furniture around in the room, somehow that will make a better life. We never think about the space in the room, and we never think about whether we actually want that furniture. That's where all the stress comes from, you see. It comes from pushing into things that can't actually give us what we need.
And how would you define those things that don't give us what we need? For example, we have been conditioned to believe that we need to study, get a particular kind of job, and have a particular bank balance or property to be really happy. These are known as the defining points. Now, according to what you are suggesting,
so where does mythology come from? First question is, where does that idea come from?
Mythology.
Yeah, it's mythology, isn't it? Created by a culture that has created a set of values that says this is the values of a successful life. And then we believe that, and then we try to fulfill ourselves through those things. What if it's not true? And even if it is true, if you don't ask the question in the first place, then what value does it have? Because you don't know that it has value. Let me ask you, do you know anybody who's gone down the route that you have just said who actually is happy?
No.
No. So there we go. And if we look at the state of the world at the moment, which is running on this predominantly Western model that comes from the 1940s, nobody is happy. And it's not about going back to something that comes from before that, but we don't even ask the simple question, does this actually work? We just believe in it and repeat it like a insane mantra over and over that this will lead to happiness. I have clients, I've seen people gamble with everything they've got because they're trying to achieve a certain financial situation, and then the minute that they don't achieve that financial situation, they feel like their life is not worth anything, and then they kill themselves or hurt themselves or end up depressed or whatever. They don't ask themselves what would actually make me happy, And maybe because of this kind of hypnotizing, brainwashing that we have, we just don't even know to ask the question in the first place, But the question does need asking, because those systems always fall down. All forms end. That's a fact about life. It doesn't have to be taken from a spiritual point of view. Even physics will show you that all forms fall apart. And so anything that is a form will fall. So if you invest only in things, you won't get anything. In things, yeah. And that's what we believe, things. My education will make me somebody special. Having some money will make me somebody special. Having this model of car will make me somebody special. If I marry the right husband, that will make me somebody special. If I behave like this, somebody might love me. If I behave like this. But we don't actually come to life and ask, how do I move with life? And that way we end up with only lawyers and no artists as well, Nobody values art anymore. Nobody values music anymore. Nobody values the things that are what we consider to be the vessels of the human spirit: poetry, art, painting, music. What use have I got for that, And yet, how we can't express ourselves if we throw our art away. How can we tell somebody that we love them if we have no art and no words?
I believe that your work also entails helping people stay centered, stay focused. Can you elaborate more on that? What exactly do you do and how you do it?
Well, I'm what you might call a meditation teacher. Some people use the word spiritual teacher, but I tend to just work with stuff that's as real as possible, which doesn't mean to say that the sacred is not real. It's just anything that's a belief doesn't serve us. Beliefs don't work. Things have to have tangible outcomes in a way. But I don't try to keep people centered, no. And I don't help people focus. That's not what meditation is for. That again, you see, we create mythologies around things, usually because of bad English translations from the 1800s that said meditation was about concentration, when it was never about that, Even the Buddha never said anything about mindfulness or the mind. He said it's all to do with the heart. And the heart is really, really important in this, in what we're talking about. And so I try to help people return to their hearts most of the time. I don't mean their feelings that go along with their belief systems about owning a Lamborghini, or the generational stuff. I'm talking about the true heart of the person. Because you've never, I'm not picking on you, it's not telling you a strange thing you don't know. You know this to be true, mate. You know, you might think that you've thought logically about things in your life, yeah? Everybody might think that they're thinking logically about something. But when we think about things, what we're really looking for is for a click in the heart. We're looking for an emotional click, that something is right. The heart tells the mind that it's right. The mind doesn't tell the mind that it's right. But we've made the mind preeminent in our lives. We've made it the most important thing. But actually, it's only a mechanism for weighing and measuring things. And unfortunately, if we've learned that something has value because of the generational systems that we've grown up with, then the mind may not be looking at things in the right way. But the heart is clearer than the mind, and the spirit is clearer than the heart. So the more we come back to our life force, our spirit, the more clearly we can see. So I work with awareness. Awareness comes first in the human being. The mind comes third, really.
So you were talking about the heart being more important than the mind.
Not more important, but at least it needs to be given credit. The mind needs cleaning a lot of the time, and it needs cleaning up because it has these objects of consciousness in it that we believe to be what life is about. The heart sees a little better, I think, but it too can have its blockages and pains. So not only can we have generational material that we're carrying, belief systems, value systems, unconscious aspects from the society around us as well, which is never benign, it's always kind of trying to sustain itself. The emotional sphere can carry that too, but in many ways we have several hearts. We have kind of, you know, the actual physical heart. We also have this kind of conditioned emotional heart, we might say, but then we have a kind of heart within the heart that Kabir talks about, the heart of the spirit within us, or the heart of awareness. And so through the emotions, through meeting emotion in a real way, and most people are afraid of meeting their emotions. Most people don't actually feel their feelings, you know. Most people feel fear about feeling their feelings. They don't actually take the communication from the feeling, which is saying, this is not working, you know, or this is good, or this is whatever, you know. So by actually following into the spaces between the emotions in the heart, you can actually come to a clearer place where you can see. So in a way, there's kind of three things in operation at once. You almost have like your life force or your spirit, you have your emotional systems, and you have your mind. And those three things need to kind of work with congruence, you know, work together in a kind of a whole way. And that way we can kind of see much better.
And how do we get them to work in congruence?
Meditation is a major tool for this. People think that meditation will sort all their problems out, but actually it's a vehicle. There are many, many different kinds of meditation, so it's not which is the right one, but it's a case of the process of meditation is always the same no matter which route we take, if it's real meditation. So, and by real meditation I mean we're not kind of trying to focus on materializing something by magic out of nothing, a different personality or something like that. Real meditation, what it does is it allows us to sit in the space of awareness that comes before all the things that we're living through, the things that we think are our identity. And it doesn't mean that those things aren't important, family, love and so on, but we actually get a bit of space from them, and we can notice our attachments into them. We can notice how we incarnate into certain areas more than others, or there are areas of pain, areas of kind of stress and so on. And so we're not sitting back and then saying those things don't exist anymore. We sit in the driving seat of life. Meditation puts us in the driving seat of consciousness so that we then have choices. Whereas if you're living with everything in your face, you have no choices. That's how meditation really works. On the level that we're talking about, which is actually quite a low level. You know, this is not hard stuff to work with actually at all. anybody who is sincere can clean up their life very, very quickly in 6 months to a year, just by simply kind of turning up and meeting themselves with kind of kind practice. Meditation, of course, is really about the movement towards self-realization in the greater scheme of things, and of course that's a much bigger picture.
Okay, so you were saying about you were talking about the different forms of meditating, and you also I noticed that you said something like real meditation. So does that imply that there was something like unreal meditation?
Absolutely. Like anything, we now live in a Western materialist world, and just like we have unreal yoga all over the world now, the yoga that's being practiced in America and England and so on is not yoga as anybody in India would recognize it. Hopefully, anyway, people in India would not recognize that stuff as yoga. It doesn't lead towards knowledge of the self. It's not the science of the self. It's exercise. It's asana turned into exercise. There's nothing about yamas and niyamas. There's nothing about examining the self and who we are. Nothing about balancing and clearing the mind. None of that. It's all about exercise, or largely. And you might stick an om at the beginning and do a bit of breathing that they call pranayama that isn't really pranayama at all. Not everybody, but a lot. And in the same way, meditation has been turned into a materialist object, so that I do this meditation, I get this result. So I do some mindfulness and I'm going to not have stress and anxiety.
Quantifiable in a very material way.
Which of course doesn't work.
Okay.
It just doesn't work. Not in a meaningful way. It doesn't. It's a bit like, well, I paid my money, now I need my result, thank you very much. And then people sit there and they go, no, it doesn't work for me.
What works?
What works? Knowing yourself at the level of your soul. That is all that will work. And anything else doesn't work. Your life is your life, and it's not the same as mine. My life is my life, and it is not the same as yours. But at the same time, it is life. And we have to sort of move through those layers that we've been talking about already, not cutting them off and throwing them away, but understanding how they're there, why they're there, and then meeting the life that's underneath that, you see? And then we move from our life rather than from external things, It's like trying to push a river. Who would try to push a river along? And yet that's what we do every day. No, the river needs to go over there, But, I would rather get in the boat and go along the river and have an adventure. That's really the way to go.
So when we were talking about stress, you talked about our markers for life and for a successful life being essentially Western and temporary constructs of the human mind.
Well, not just Western. I mean, the whole world is the West now. Yeah. And even India is kind of incarnating into a rapid declining West very quickly.
Very quickly.
The kind of sproutings up of KFC and all that, and people actually thinking that filth, that poison has value in some way. It's just sheer poison in the body, and yet it's seen as some kind of thing to go towards. Is insane, to kind of not understand that. What did somebody say to me just the other day? Somebody was just saying, how do we get more trees back in India? I said, well, don't cut them down in the first place, to not understand that trees are the lungs of the world, that we build endless developments of these new houses, and, all for money, and no point do we realize that if we have money, because there's nothing wrong with money, but if we have it and you build a place where nobody can breathe, that there's no school, no hospital, no library, no park, no amenities, no relaxation, no books. What was the point of building that thing in the first place? There's no human life to be lived there. It's just money for the sake of money. That's all.
And that is what you believe is to be the root of the stress, the stress, which was such a rare word just a few years ago, stress which has become such an all-pervading emotion now, even among children. From what you say, you think that it is this mindless materialism, and it is the mindless pursuit
Absolutely.
of...
Yeah, I mean, there have been studies done. I work with schools a great deal. I mean, tomorrow actually a meditation program comes out that I've designed specifically for children. I work with schools in the UK. I've worked with schools for 25 years and thousands of children. And schools bring me in when things get out of hand. Not for the kids, but the whole school can be on the verge